So, hey everybody, I'm Garrett Fuller with MMORPG. I am sitting with Paul Sage, the legend Paul Sage is what I call him. He's been doing this as long as I've been playing MMOs. He's been making them, and that's kind of a cool thing. So, but the big thing today that we got to see, and I know Paul's excited to talk about, and it's the one thing everybody wants to hear about, is crafting. And I'll say it again: crafting, crafting, crafting. And from what I saw, it looks amazing. Even I was surprised. And so I'm going to stop and let you give everybody the crafting rundown, because I know it's a big deal. And you made an orc axe. That was so cool in the demo at the end of the day. So I'll let you tell everybody about the crafting.
All right. Well, I think the first thing to really talk about is kind of philosophy going behind it, and we wanted to make crafting really important in the game, right? We know people like to play crafters. And we know that they want to actually just be crafters at some level. And so part of that is making sure that they can make the best gear, they can make the best items in the game, because that shows that they're important. Even little things like they get to put their name on the item, right? Right. But they're also, when we broke it down, we broke down to like, hey, here's a couple of things that we think are really important, and one of them was experimentation. Yeah. Right. And so we have this experimentation where you always know what you're making if you just take what we call ingredients. So there are 2 ingredients that you can add to anything, and then you know what you're making. So you have all of it listed on the side, and you're like, okay, I want to make an axe. There you go. And then you have additives. Yeah. And additives are really where the experimentation part comes in, because if you've played Skyrim and you have seen their alchemy system, you can see, well, oh, these things have different properties, so there's about 4 different traits. And so we have something very similar to that, where it takes a lot of learning to learn the additives, and then the amount of additives that you add impacts the item that you're going to make as well. And so even though we show you what the item is, we don't show you what the bonuses are that you're going to add to that item. You kind of learn that over time, and hopefully through social mechanisms, right? So hopefully trading to get the additives. And so experimentation was huge for us. Yeah. One of the other things that was really important out of there was being able to master a specific trade skill line in this case. Right, so whether it be weaponsmith, whether it be alchemy.
You might as well do the breakdown for everybody really fast. Go ahead, I'll let you do it.
Okay. So yeah, you can be an enchanter. Alchemy is there, weaponsmithing, armor smithing, and then what we call provisioner, which is cooking, all right, and creating food and drink. Yeah. And so you get to decide, and I'm going to use points, but the points are only illustrative, right? And so if I said that you had 1,000 points that you could spend on trade skills, you could split that up however you wanted. But if I told you it took 800 to master any one of those trade skills, then say, oh, I want to be a master weaponsmith, then you'd have to spend 800 points to take that up. So really you can kind of be a generalist, or you can be a specialist, and it's really kind of depending on what you feel like your role is. So if you're out and you're kind of like one of those solo players who doesn't really want to talk to people in MMOs, but you still like the comfort of strangers there, then maybe you want to be a generalist and kind of rely on trading with specialists at that point. But maybe you're a large member of a guild and you're like, okay, well, we really need the best armor smith, or we need the best weapon crafter. Then that's available to you as well. Right.
I think it's super cool. I know I was running around the dungeon and I found some grain in a barrel. The thing to point out too is the resources are everywhere. It's a lot like an Elder Scrolls game in Skyrim, where you find resources under every rock, under every barrel, every crate. And that was important. So I found my grain, and I had some water, whatever was clear water, and I went to the fire and I made dark. What is it? Dawnstar Ale. I'm getting the names wrong, and I should know Dawnstar. My son will get mad. He loves Dawnstar. So Dawnstar Ale, and I was able to use it to heal myself during fights, and it was great to have something useful right away, and it was super awesome. And that was part of the provisioner line. Yeah. So and then with the weapons and the enchanting and everything like that, you said it's a now. One of the things I wanted to ask was in almost every MMO, crafting has always been a backseat to raiding loot. So you guys feel very strongly that crafting loot is super important. And why don't you tell us more about that?
So there's a number of things that you can do. So crafters will have unique things that they can make, and those unique things, obviously, they're the best of that, right? So those are the unique things they can make. But as well, when you go into dungeons, you want to find great loot, right? I mean, that's kind of one of the points of going into those things. You want to feel rewarded. You want to see something new, right? So, but a crafter can actually take what you did, and they can do several things with it. They can make it better. Enchanters can add enchantments. Like, let's say it's a sword, right? So maybe a weaponsmith can make it better. An enchanter can give you enchantments to add onto that sword to make it even better than that. Or you might say, this isn't the greatest thing I ever found. It's great, but it's not what I want. And then they can, in turn, deconstruct it. And then they can start to learn the properties of those things, and they can get materials that they otherwise couldn't get from those things. So there really becomes that play between the person who's out adventuring and the crafter or the tradesman.
I think it's cool. One of the other things that you guys brought up, which is awesome, is in terms of, I think, weapons and armor, you actually have the racial stuff in the game. So you have the Elven weapons, the Orc weapons, you know, tell us a little bit about that. And also the old classics, too, that are in the Elder Scrolls games as well. Because when you mentioned that, that was huge. I thought that was so cool that that's going to be part of it.
Right. Depending on what race you pick, whether it be Orc, Altmer, you know, whatever it is, you start with that racial style. Right. So what we're not telling anybody is how you get the other racial styles at this time. But you can. You absolutely can learn the other racial styles. So if you're an Orc and you want to find out how to become an Altmer, there's a way in the game that you'll be able to say, oh, okay, I now know the Altmer racial style. And so certain crafters, they'll start to learn all of the racial styles, right? Because that'll be really fun for them. And so that's a big thing of not just being able to create something that's more powerful, but being able to create things that are different looking, or even taking items you already have and maybe making them look different. So it will be really important.
So no, I think that's super cool. I think it's something that everybody wants. And like I said, the interface was really friendly. It was super easy to figure out. I think the additives was really the like you said, the idea of experimentation and not giving too much to players, letting them kind of explore it and feel it out as they go. I think it's going to be great, and I think it's a core system to Elder Scrolls. And like I said, there's always crafting in MMOs, but the fact that you guys are making it so relevant, it's really important.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think trade is key, right? The social elements are what keep people as part of the community. And crafters, I think, you know, they've been awesome the whole time, and they're kind of waiting to be like, hey, this is our moment.
Oh yeah, they're gonna love this. Yeah, I knew it. I knew this was gonna be a big one. Just to shift gears a little bit, some of the coolest stuff we heard about today, and everybody who's been in here, Nick, Maria, Matt, Wheeler, they all talked about their builds and the progression system, and how the AVA fights you guys are having in the studios is really starting to make the progression system matter. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know you work on it, I know you oversee it. It's a big thing. So.
So you came here in October, and we were in the middle of talking about what we liked and what we didn't like about the progression system we had at that point. You know, that's game development, and I think the big thing that we felt we really wanted to concentrate on in changing the system was choice and giving you more choice. We still felt that it just felt a little linear at that time, and you know, we always had that tenet of it has to have a lot of choice in it. And the trick is, well, we want it to have choice, but we also want people to feel like they are special, they stand out in some way, right? And so as you talk about that build that they've been talking about, whether it be, oh, I decided to play a Templar in light armor with a bow, that's a popular build around the office right now, but that doesn't mean it's because it's the best. I mean, in general, what's been happening is people are like, that's really fun. Now there have been PvP, and you know, where it's like, okay, I ruled because I got this, and sometimes that has us toning things down. But the big thing I think about progression that a lot of people don't know or maybe even confused by is adding skill lines, right? Like getting into the world, going and joining a guild, for instance, and having a completely new skill line added where they're like, this is different, you know, it's a completely different part of my character that I didn't know was coming.
We didn't actually talk about that, the guild skill system. It's kind of we haven't really seen it, but I know you know it was up on the bar when you showed the you know what you guys have to look forward to, and that was one of them. And I'm like, wow, that's a whole other thing to think about.
So I think getting all of those different skill lines out there and getting them added dynamically. It's funny because I gave a sneak peek today, and I think it's not fair to say, hey, I gave a sneak peek to you and I talk about it. Is you know, I showed you, hey, the vampire. This is how that happens, right? You get the vampire skill line that way.
So yeah,
you know, alliance versus alliance that way as well. So
I think it's going to be great. I know we got to wrap it up. I wish Paul could talk more about crafting, but are you going to be at PAX? Are you going to see us at PAX?
I am going to be at PAX.
Everybody can ask Paul about crafting at PAX East. That's how it's going to go. So thanks so much for hanging out with us, Paul. We really appreciate it. The game looks fantastic, and each time we see it, everybody gets excited.
Yeah.
So thanks again for joining us. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.
All right, thanks.
That's it.